What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Blockhash Podcast, number one resource for all that is happening across the emerging tech space. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch this show. Today, I'm joined by another wonderful guest, Ilies, CEO of Ouinex, a next-generation financial trading platform designed to bridge the gap between decentralized and institutional finance. Ilies, welcome to the show, man. Pleasure to have you on today. How's it going?
Very good, very good. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Likewise, pleasure's all mine. Looking forward to diving in and learning more about Ouinex. Before we do, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your backstory. Everyone usually has an interesting one in this space. We'd love to kind of hear what your journey's been like.
I'm actually a trade fi guy. So I've been like 20 years in traditional finance and I'm a very late guy into crypto. I actually just got into crypto around 2022. So that's pretty late compared to, most of the people that I'm meeting now that I'm in the crypto space. But basically around 20 years experience in trade fi, building and selling trading platforms to a retail audience, basically. Worked for one of the largest brokers at that time, actually based out of New York, and then moved in to develop all of their business out of Europe, Middle East, Africa, and then in 2022 decided that it was time to get to the crypto space. Obviously, at that time, crypto was huge, and decided to build Ouinex based on my observations of how crypto platforms were functioning at the time, and my experience of how TradeFi space was working at the time in terms of trading, and thought there was some gaps that needed to be filled.
Excellent. And what can you tell us about Ouinex today? What are you guys kind of all about? What's your core mission? What are you guys focused on?
Yeah, sure. So our mission is to build. Well, it's already live, but so it's already built. But our mission is to deliver a crypto exchange that allows for users to also access global markets. What I mean by this is today, if you go to most exchanges, you're going to be able to trade, spot crypto. You're going to have all your bells and whistles related to crypto, like launch pads and all that stuff. And then you'll be able to trade as well perpetuals, and then a couple of TradeFi instruments. What we've decided to do is to really bring that full environment, which I just described, and plug the whole TradeFi trading infrastructure to allow in one shot to actually access everything. So, with Ouinex, for example, using USDT as collateral, not only do you trade spot crypto and crypto perps like everyone does, but you can come in and trade Nasdaq, Dow Jones, S&P, gold, silver, stocks. You can trade pretty much anything, even European indices. DAX is also a huge volume generator, oil. And so the idea is really to bring all these assets into a single multi-asset, I guess, crypto exchange is how you would call it. And the main difference here is the way we've approached incorporating these TradeFi components into our platform is really actually using TradeFi infrastructure from a back-end trading perspective versus what we're currently seeing on the market, where most exchanges are trying to get into TradeFi by quote unquote reinventing the wheel through perpetuals, which we can go into details later on what that difference translates out, how it translates.
Yeah, this is really cool. This is something that this leads into my first question, anyways, about market convergence and what you guys are kind of doing here, blending DeFi with traditional finance, something that was kind of like theory before, much harder to do in practice. Curious how you guys go about doing that, like what infrastructure needs to be built to like support that type of a transition. Like how are you guys bridging that gap more specifically?
Yeah, so the approach we had, so there's two ways to approach this, right? Either you come in and you approach this from, the pure Web3 crypto space, which is like, okay, this is the kind of trading platform that works. The way they built the platform is based on what we call a center limit order book, which is those order books, right? Red lines and green lines that you see. And then you're like, okay, now I need to include TradeFi instruments. How do I do this? I need to find market makers. I need to find liquidity that basically is okay with pricing those TradeFi instruments, and adapting those to my current crypto infrastructure, right? So that's one way of doing it, which is what most exchanges are trying to do. The other way of doing it is the way we've done it is to say, well, look, if you think about TradeFi trading, this has been here for hundreds of years already. the infrastructure is already here. The products are already here and super efficient. And actually, by using infrastructure that's already been tested and that's already generated billions and billions of trading volume, you're actually allowing users to access TradeFi at a cheaper cost. Just because the more a product is mature, right, the more efficient it is, and the more efficient it is, the less the cost to the end user. So what we've done is we said, well, look, there's good in crypto, right? In the way they obviously execute trades on the crypto side, and the whole blockchain environment is definitely something good. But there's also really good aspects to the pure traditional way of trading traditional financial instruments, which we can also go into detail a little bit later. And so we've chosen that route, is to say, let's leverage my 20 years experience, and with my team, probably 100 years of combined experience, to use what's already there in TradeFi and see how technologically we can incorporate it into this new crypto space, so we don't have to rebuild from scratch. And the way that translates, and I'll be very brief with this, is today, if you're looking at, let's say, gold, right? As you probably know, Binance has, you can trade gold on Binance. If you go to Hyperliquid, which is the big hype of the moment, you can also trade, for example, euro dollar, right? Well, because they've chosen that first route of what we call perpetual products, which is brand new products, that you need market makers to make markets for and people to participate in. And then you compare the euro dollar product and the gold product, for example, that we have on Ouinex. Because we went with a product that already exists and is a lot more efficient, we're approximately 7 times cheaper than any Binance, Hyperliquid, whoever you have in the market on TradeFi instruments. And then if you look at the depth of the liquidity, which is how much liquidity do you have behind each price, we're about 100 times more liquid. So if you look at Hyperliquid and you sum up, all the liquidity that you have in that order book, just you'll sum it up, you'll probably find like probably around 500K worth of liquidity. With us, first 4 lines are already at 10 million in liquidity. And the reason being isn't that we're geniuses. It's just we chose the route to use the TradeFi infrastructure that has been already here for years, where already tier one banks are plugged into and are already participating. So the Deutsche Bank, the Citibank, the JP Morgans of the world, they're already providing huge liquidity. So why go and create this new product for the retail when actually there is a product that already exists that has so much more liquidity and so much cheaper to trade?
Here's a kind of like a two-winded question. How do you guys navigate both the complexity of adding those kinds of complex financial products, but also how do you navigate like the jurisdictions of it all too? Like when you have financial products in different places all over the world, I'm sure there's a lot of friction points that pop up that make it difficult as well. Curious how you kind of navigate those waters.
It's an interesting question. From a regulatory perspective, in general, everyone sees and knows that regulations are getting, more like tougher and tougher, in jurisdictions like whether it's Europe, whether it's the US, right? And the reality is, as soon as you start getting into what we call derivatives market, which is accessing TradeFi products as well as spot products on crypto, you're now providing two different services. One is pure spot trading, your delivery or exchanging a crypto for another, which is almost like a payment kind of an action. That's one type of license that you need to operate that. And then as soon as you get into margin trading, derivatives trading, and notably on TradeFi, now you're getting into a whole new environment of jurisdictional constraints that you need to abide by. So, for example, I know that in Europe, for doing such an activity, you would actually need to combine two different licenses. One is the Mika license, which is the big theme of the moment, which would allow you to do the crypto part of it, and then you would not also need the MiFID II license, which would allow you to do that, right? So at this stage, what we've decided not to go into, just because we're a startup and we don't have the funds that those big boys have, like Binance and all that stuff. There's a true cost to regulations. So we've decided not to go in these markets where regulations are at a cost that is so high that it would eat up our runway. So what we've done is we are fully regulated, and we've gotten regulations out of South Africa, out of SVG, out of Australia as well, and we're looking into adding more jurisdictions that allow us to actually do both. both the spot side as well as the derivative side. Navigating these waters is extremely complex. Environment changes, almost monthly basis, where there's new requirements, new constraints, or a jurisdiction that says, "Hey, actually, this license isn't valid anymore. You need to now abide by these standards." And so it's a constant change. But we did choose, unlike a lot of crypto exchanges, to be regulated because we feel that having that license just adds that credibility, right? Users don't have to just trust us for our word that we're serious people. They can also have direct access to the regulators in case there's anything. It just makes everyone more comfortable.
Let me ask you this. There's so many different crypto, blockchain, Web3, fintech, whatever term you want to use these days, startups that are out there. And one of the great things about this industry is the innovation and having a mindset where they're pushing forward, trying new things, breaking this, breaking that. And it's all great in terms of pushing like what we're capable of doing and what we can develop and build for people. The only problem with it is sometimes I think maybe more often than not, they overlook a lot of the compliance that goes into building architecture and infrastructure that is compatible very well with traditional finance. Do you have thoughts on maybe what the industry needs to do better or startups in this space need to do better in terms of building more compliance first architecture so that we can have infrastructure that better connects the DeFi world with the TradFi world?
As a startup, I think it's all about balance, right? Because there's two schools to this, right? There's the guy that comes in and starts his company, and then it's like, I'm going to be perfectly compliant from the get-go. When you do this, the problem is you're focusing so much resources and time into just that big aspect because it's such an important aspect, but it's such also it eats a lot of resources. You might find yourself building a compliance platform, but then no funds to actually market your product and actually get traction to it. Then there's the other way of doing it, where it's just like, okay, compliance is what is the ability to protect your business and your users, right? And the thing is, when you're a startup and your product isn't even live yet, what are you really protecting? You're just not protecting much. There's no revenue to protect. There's no users to protect, right? However, you do know that there is the risk that if your product goes well and goes to market really well, really fast, then you might be exposed to real risk of compliance, which can then really cost you a lot as well. So I think it's all about timing and balancing. And what I would say is always be conscious of what regulatory requirements will be for your particular activity, and set up the infrastructure without actually needing to set up the actual process, but set up the infrastructure so that it is already kind of available for that evolution. So let's say you have end of month reports that you need to be able to submit every single, at the end of each month to a regulator, right? If you don't think about where your data is being put and how it's being formatted and how it's being cleaned up and how it's accessible, and you just do this fully manually the day you actually the regulator knocks on your door, it's going to take you a week, maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks to actually generate that report because your data is going to be all over the place, right? So the idea is to think about, okay, I don't have that report to submit now, but I might have a lot of reports to submit later if this business works. So let me set up the right infrastructure. So let me set up a data warehouse where I can have someone that just takes care of making sure all my data is properly, organized, so on and so forth. So the day there is a regulator that comes in, all I need to do is code a little script that drafts these reports and within a couple of clicks, right? And then the real idea is that nowadays, with all these tools that you need to have in order to be able to be compliant, with the advancement of AI, it just makes everything so much easier. So yeah, it's about a balance. To answer your question, it's about be cognizant of what's coming from a regulatory perspective. Don't build fully for now, but build the base that allows you to evolve into a compliant business.
Yeah, you mentioned AI briefly there. Do you think AI can be a key tool here in kind of blending and converging DeFi and TradFi, or any interesting maybe angles or verticals there for it?
So I think for us, the way we're using AI is we're using AI in our business for doing a few things. For optimizing internal processes by automating them and just making things smoother with where you needed 4 people to do a certain task, now you only need one. that knows the business and knows how to use AI, right? So obviously that's pretty much what all companies are doing. The second thing that we're trying to do here as well is we're starting to look into these AI agents that could potentially become, a dedicated customer support, individual customer support to each one of our clients, right? So let's say you are a client of Ouinex, we would actually present you to your dedicated AI agent, and that AI agent would know everything about you, your trading pattern, what you like to trade, when you trade, markets that you're following, and he would sit there as a friend in your contacts, like let's say on a Telegram, right? And he would engage with you. And anytime you have a question, now you don't need to go into the app or whatever. You have that quote unquote AI friend that knows everything about Ouinex, so can act as your customer support, can act as your trading assistant, so on and so forth. So there is that aspect that we're looking into as well. In terms of pure conversions of TradeFi with with what you call DeFi or the crypto world, I think it's all coming together anyways. It's just a matter of how. So I mean, you're seeing all these crypto exchanges coming in and starting to right to put their feet into the TradeFi space. One of the reasons, by the way, is because the volumes are so low and there's nothing happening right now in the crypto market. That they're starting to realize that, well, you know, when there's lack of liquidity in crypto, nothing happens, coins don't move, people don't trade. We don't have in TradeFi that aspect of, oh, there's no liquidity on the market. I mean, gold is like trillions of dollars being exchanged, and there's always something happening. I mean, you're seeing in the USD, the stock, the equities market is absolutely insane. So there's always something happening. So I think they're setting foot in here. And then you also have the traditional financial brokers that want a piece of crypto as well, right? And so they're realizing that there's something to do there as well. And this is where, when you look at conversions, it's like, how do you use the best of the blockchain technology to provide the best of tradable assets, like the TradeFi assets? And that's where you start getting into what we call tokenization of stocks, right, of derivatives contracts and all that stuff. And I think that's where the trend is going for sure.
What do you think about the state of the crypto market today? It's been kind of weird over the last few years. I think as institutions have gotten more involved and we've kind of gotten what we've asked for, we've wanted crypto to go mainstream and big players to come in and buy our bags and participate. And I think maybe we spoke maybe a little too quickly or a little too soon, so I don't think people really realize what that meant, which is not a bad thing. But the market dynamic seems to be changing a little bit in terms of how markets react and how projects are getting capital now, and what the expectations kind of are in the market. I think capital has kind of rotated out into AI as well. Maybe that'll rotate back. What do you think about like this cycle and kind of how it's played out, and what does that kind of tell you from your perspective about where we're at today?
Yeah, I think the crypto market, I mean, the way I see it is, obviously a lot of people see it as a cycle, right? We're in a bear market, we're waiting for the bull cycle, so on and so forth. I have a hard time looking at it that way only. And that's because I come from the TradeFi space, where I'm going to give you an example of a market, the foreign exchange market, okay, what they call Forex market, right? So the Forex market, at its initiation, was obviously a huge market for retail. Everyone was going in with high leverages and so on and so forth. And then regulations started kicking in. And actually, before regulations started kicking in, what happened was there was a huge amount of scams in the forex market, with brokers coming in, from everywhere and pulling, rug pulling and all that stuff. That then triggered regulation and oversight. When that came in, a lot of the small players got wiped out. Remained the bigger boys, right? And the market kind of got cleaned up. And so the way I see where crypto is now is it's kind of like the same story, right? So yes, you did have cycles, but you had the beautiful period of crypto, everything was going up. The issue is, and I think crypto took it to another level, and it's still in somehow taking it to that level, is there's been so many scams, right? Because the whole story is retail, right? Crypto started with the retail audience, right? So there's retail, and then institutions came in when they saw that big volume, and you throw ETFs and all that stuff. But initiation is, it's a retail market. The retail market at the beginning was okay. People were making money. Bitcoin was going up, and then it reached that level where, okay, there's money to be made in crypto, and we had all these scams and meme coins and rug pulls that happened, and time over again, the crypto audience really, got hammered. That's the reality. Like, there was so much liquidity that just taken out of the retail audience, to the point where now the way I translate what's going on now is, I feel like the retail audience is starting to wake up to the reality of what crypto was and what it should be, right? And so what it was a bubble, was not the real world kind of thing, right? Meme coins going 10,000%, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, there's nothing backing it. There's just one guy that coded a smart contract, did a bit of marketing, telling people, influencers, to buy here and sell there, and that's it. And everyone else, right? And so as retail audience kind of like wakes up to this, I think it's going to be very tough to get the retail audience back into the game of, listings and new tokens. I think they've seen it, right? And even when you Google now and you just even ask ChatGPT, one of the first things that pops out is like, "Hey, careful before investing in a token." Whereas before it was like, "Oh, investing in tokens can generate you, generational wealth, blah blah blah," right? And so I don't see this really as a bear market. I see this as a market maturing, where projects that have no substance are being wiped out and being, seeing no interest. And we're going to see a consolidation of these projects, and only new projects that have real substance, real teams with experience, with a real product, real business plan, right? That are going to be able to basically use, the whole crypto environment to try to, generate capital and go ahead. So again, I don't see this as a bear market. I see more as a maturing market. And obviously, markets are volatile. So of course, tomorrow Bitcoin goes back up to 100,000. We're going to see a little bit of retail coming back, but I don't think we'll ever see anything like the, first or second bull run that we have lived. Is my opinion. Just
I agree with you. I think the market is kind of going through a maturing phase right now, and this evolution of what crypto is now going to be. And I think retail is just burnt out. There's a lot of greed in the retail market in crypto, and that's propagated, I think, a lot of those scams and meme coins, and hope that everything's just going to go 10,000% up to the moon. And it's like, that's not the reality, right? If you want to build like a real industry and you want to attract like real money and real players and do something, like, you're living in a casino. It's like, do you want it to be a casino or do you want it to be an industry? Like, so I think it's starting to emerge out of that narrative. That'll always kind of exist there, unfortunately, for crypto, but I think we're starting to evolve a little bit.
100%. I agree.
With Ouinex, you have spot, you have perps, indices, commodities, stock, forex. What's kind of next on the horizon for you guys in terms of what you want to incorporate into Ouinex as a platform and ecosystem, or what can we expect from you guys this year?
Look, obviously, we have our own token that's going to be released in a few weeks, maybe a couple of months max. We're just waiting for the market to kind of revive itself a little bit. So I think that's a big milestone. The release of our tokens, obviously, that token is going to give users access to lower trading fees, so on and so forth. And then the other thing that we're heavily looking into, which we realize is a true gap, is when you look at all these big crypto exchanges, the quality of the client services we find is despicable. Basically, you can send an email, get an answer, or not. 2 weeks later, it's all chat bots. It's right, and so the idea is, how do we leverage AI to create, this high quality human touch client services at scale for the users? Is one of the main things that we're looking into.
Excellent. Are you guys going to be at any events this year? I know there's like a billion of them in the space, but it's the way everyone stays connected, I guess. Anywhere we might expect to see you?
Yeah, sure. We're trying to we'll obviously be at Token 49 in Dubai next year. This is something that we absolutely want to do, and then potentially at the Finance Magnets in London in November.
More personal, something for founders out there that are building in the space and doing awesome things. You've been building for 15 years, something like that, I heard. What are some of the most important lessons that you've kind of learned over time as a founder that you've taken away that maybe could benefit someone else out there today that's building?
Yeah, what I would do, what I would say that one of the main things that I always tell everyone that I work with, my colleagues, is do everything with urgency. And I'm going to explain what I mean by this. Is if you have an idea, right, on let's say how to acquire more clients, right? There's two ways to do it, right? You're going to have the person that's going to sit there and is going to analyze the strategy and take a week or two to actually, see what are the weaknesses of the strategy, the pros, right? Like really analytical mode kind of thing, which I think to me is a waste of time. You do have to have a bit of analytics, but not to that extent. Um, I'm more of a guy that has 1,000 ideas and I'm going to try 1,000 of them, right? And then see what sticks, kind of thing. So if I have an idea to get something done, I'll get it done, but I'll get it done with urgency. I won't sleep. I will be, making sure that I execute, get it done, get it out to the market, get data from it. Did it work? Did it not work? Works, perfect. Let's build on it. Doesn't work, trash. Let's go with the next idea. And so I think one of the things that I would say is don't overthink. Just do and execute. That's it. Put it out there and do it with urgency.
Excellent. Good advice. And then where people keep up with everything that you guys are working on at Ouinex in the meantime, I'm sure the website's the best place to go, but socials, do you guys do like a
Yeah,
blog or a
definitely
newsletter?
Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, Twitter. You can go on the website and sign up to the newsletter. Absolutely. And then we invite anyone to come to our platform. Sign up, open an account. You don't have to deposit funds. There's a demo version where you have virtual funds you can play with. Test it out, see what you like, and obviously the one most important thing that we have is we take at heart any feedback that helps us improve. So things you see that you don't really like on the platform, send us an email and we'll get it fixed for sure.
And then do you have a X or LinkedIn as well?
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn, Ilies Larbi, and X is the same thing. Ilies Larbi, my name. I guess we'll put it somewhere.
Yeah, we'll put it in the episode description regardless. So no worries. People can find everything there. But Ilias, really appreciate the time, man. It's been great learning about what you guys are doing here in this gap that you're filling between DeFi and TradFi, and keep up all the great work. Would love to know as you kind of go and create new things with Ouinex. If there's any new updates or things that come out in the future, or you guys are at any events, let me know. Would love to hopefully meet up at some point. I mean, we can do a in-person episode too. Those usually a lot of fun. So
I would
keep me
love to.
posted.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.